We have arrived at the fourth book of the Torah, and because of a census that is at the start of this book in English, it is known as the Book of Numbers. But its Hebrew name, Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness, is much more fitting. It is in the wilderness that the Israelites transform from a group of slaves to a free people whose society is based on law, moral behavior, and a meaningful connection to God. Quite a change from their Egypt days. And this is not the first time in the Torah that our people experience dramatic change while they're away from the big city. What is it about being in nature that makes such an important place in Jewish stories for growth and development? It's in the wilderness that Jacob, in the book of Genesis, gets the name Israel after wrestling with a mysterious being. The morning after that struggle, still in the wilderness, Jacob reconciles his 20-year estranged relationship with his twin brother Esau. It's in the wilderness in the book of Exodus that Moses meets God at the burning bush, and after a lot of convincing and the introduction of one of the most favorite lines of the Jewish people, "Let my people go," that Moses decides to team up with Adonai to free the Jewish people. And this week's portion continues what will be a total of 40 years of wandering and developing into a free society for the Israelites. The ancient rabbis teach, allow yourself to be treated like a wilderness. Our colleague, Rabbi Sari Laufer, explains this teaching. She compares the wilderness to standing on the precipice of something new and unknown. In this situation, one could ask, am I to be trampled by uncertainty? Rabbi Laufer says, yes. Tread upon by anxiety? Yes. Am I also going to be open to new people, new possibilities, and new adventures? Yes, yes, and yes. And this is what happens to Jacob, Esau, Moses, and the Israelites in a place of uncertainty, without structure or organization, often anxious and unsure. They open themselves to new ideas and other people and even God, and it changes the course of Jewish life forever. We have wildernesses today, wide open natural spaces to wander. But Rabbi Laufer's thoughts on the wilderness does not restrict us to only developing and growing in an outdoor setting. A wilderness can be the unknown of a new challenge, a change at work or in our personal lives, taking on the challenge of something demanding, as well as living in a time of uncertainty or danger. I know each of us can add our own examples of what our wandering in the wilderness could mean to us. What is timeless about the Israelites' wilderness experience in the Torah is that they're often kicking and screaming throughout the entire adventure. It is scary. On multiple occasions, they express a desire to go back to Egypt, even though they were abused there, because it's what they know. They are very cranky. All human reactions still to this day. Rabbi Laufer writes, one of the keys to successful travel through these wildernesses is to see through or past the uncertainty to the potential for expansion. And I'll add that when we have people we can trust or just have standing by our side when we are adrift, or a community to do so, it can make all the difference. And this is what steadies the Israelites, Moses, Aaron, and even God at all times, each provide support for each other and the Israelites. Being present doesn't prevent the stress or the challenge or an occasional meltdown, but having someone to lean on and be there for support can make all the difference. And it's my hope for any of us that felt and feel like we're currently wandering in the wilderness, that we seek out our support when we are struggling and do our best to see the potential for growth amongst a lot of change. And this for me has been easier said than done. My journey towards becoming a rabbi began in part because I had a family that loved to go to synagogue. And when I was a kid, they dragged me along for the ride, Colin. I was just like you. I would lean mostly on my mom, maybe sleep during services, but I was there regularly. As I got older, I met rabbis that resulted in me thinking that maybe one day I may want to be a rabbi myself. But it didn't happen. When I finished university, I worked for 10 years in organizations that I loved. And then my wilderness struck. The Peace Corps-like program that I worked for had a financial crisis. And I went from traveling around the world, organizing community service projects, to being thrust into the wilderness of unemployment. And it was awful. And I was not happy. I was a cranky Israelite. And amidst my wallowing in sadness, I began to investigate new opportunities, including that idea that I had tucked far back in my mind, becoming a rabbi. And I called an old friend, Aaron Pankin of blessed memory. Aaron had been my camp counselor when I was a kid, and he himself had become a rabbi and eventually the dean of the Hebrew Union College Rabbinical School. Aaron, I'm thinking about studying to become a rabbi. Can we talk? And Aaron took the time to answer my questions. He was patient. He was encouraging. He was good to me, and soon I was walking through the doors of his school. And I am deeply grateful to him for taking my call and being there for me. And I would not be here without him. And I'm guessing if I asked each person here today, you could tell me of a time when you were in the wilderness and of a person or people who helped you navigate forward. And even if we've exited one wilderness, we can find ourselves in another. In light of this week's tragedy in Texas and our nation's ongoing challenges, I've found myself having a palpable sense of, again, being in a wilderness. And I know, because some of you have told me, I'm not the only one with this feeling. And so here we are, in Book 4, Bamidbar, reading about the wilderness of our ancestors while wandering it through ourselves in modern day. This I know, because our tradition clearly teaches and our history repeatedly demonstrates. This I know, just like the Israelites did long ago. We can make it through our wildernesses. We can make it because of the strength within each of us. We can make it because of the support we receive and give to one another. And we can make it because of the ties that bind us to each other and the ultimate. And so, fellow travelers, like our ancestors of old, let us journey on together. Shabbat Shalom.